Hello everyone, and welcome to the Miss Pink Digital Podcast, home to everything digital marketing, brand building, and tech. And on today's episode, I know what you're thinking looking at the title. Keywords are dead. You might be thinking, that's a bit extreme. What do you mean? What are we talking about here? They're not dead, okay? I just needed a little bit of a clickbaity title for this episode. But if you're running SEO and you've done any SEO within the past year, you know that keywords are slowly losing their authority and relevance in SEO. And I'll talk to you exactly why and what to do instead and what search engines like Google are looking for when it comes to search engine optimization that you might be doing, you might not be doing, but they hold a higher importance than keywords, or if not higher importance, at least in the same playing field as keywords once held. So obviously this episode's all about SEO, SEO strategies and what we need to be doing as we go into 2025 and beyond. And keyword optimization isn't necessarily or doesn't necessarily need to be at the top of your list. Still needs to be on there, but not as high as what it used to be. So anyone who's looked into SEO in the past, currently optimizes their website with the view to improve organic rankings will know traditionally SEO was orientated around keyword optimization. So this is where a prime example would be, you would write blog content, you'd look at some keywords, you'd perform some keyword research, identify your core keywords of where you want to appear on the search page for, and then based on that, you would create blog content, and within that blog content, you would incorporate these keywords. You'd incorporate these keywords on your landing page. There was a period of time where people were keyword stuffing a lot, which is essentially where you just stuff your content with these keywords to where it impacts the user experience negatively. And Google tried to shift away from that and penalize sites who were doing it. But nonetheless, keyword implementation in your content was an incredibly important aspect of SEO. And don't get me wrong, it still is. It's still important to incorporate the search queries that you want to appear for on search into your content. It's important to guide Google on what you want to appear for within your content. So by all means, and definitely, of course, incorporate keyword implementation and optimization within your SEO strategy going forwards. Do not completely shift away from that. One thing I will say though, don't just put all your focus into that. And that's what I mean when I say in the title, keywords dead. They're not dead by any means. They are still very much alive and present within the SEO world. But there are other things that Google is looking at and other search engines are looking at as ranking factors when it comes to our websites, our blog posts, and all of that good stuff. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So just to jump into it, first one is user experience. Now, if you've listened to any podcast episodes to do with SEO within the last year or so, maybe even longer, maybe a couple of years, user experience has always been at the forefront of those episodes when it comes to SEO. And this year and next year, more than ever, Google is looking at user experience when it comes to a ranking factor. This is such an important ranking factor. It's not even funny. Google is really focusing on this. And it makes sense as to why. A website with a good user experience, it's obviously what Google wants to provide users online. They want users to have a positive experience when they go to a website. They want websites to be trustworthy, and a user experience is how you do just that. So what core elements do you need to look at when it comes to user experience? I do have a whole podcast episode about user experience on a website. So if you want to go and listen to that, I highly recommend, because it is hopefully very helpful to anyone looking to optimize their UX, but just general things relevant to user experience and that are ranking factors when it comes to Google search or any search engine for that matter. First one is obviously page speed. This has always been a core ranking factor. It's incredibly important to have a website with a good page speed, but also not from a SEO perspective, but just from a general conversion rate optimization perspective. Users do not want to wait for ages for a page to load. We do not have the patience for that anymore. We didn't really have the patience for it in the first place, but especially now our attention span is becoming worse and worse. So a good page speed is incredibly important. Anything around mobile optimization, so websites that are optimized for mobile devices, is very important, especially in today's society where the majority of the time we are browsing the web through mobile devices and we're making purchases and conversion decisions via mobile device, especially Gen Z. So they say Gen Z is actually more likely to carry out big purchases via a mobile phone than any other generation. It's other generations who will typically go on their laptop for big purchases, but Gen Z are actually carrying out these giant purchases through mobile devices. So that's the importance of mobile optimization. And because of how many people use mobiles to surf the web, search engines are looking for that as a ranking factor. Alongside being optimized for mobiles, your website really needs to take the user into account when it comes to the user experience. And by that, I mean looking at ways you can make your website more accessible and really cater to everyone. So anything from an accessibility point of view to do with alt tags on images to explain to users who are visually impaired what the image is, anything to do with how your page content is structured, your images and contrast of those images and contrast of your text on the page, anything around content spacing, video content on the page, if it has transcripts or does it have captions, segmented blocks of text to make sure that content can be navigated easily. Just think about potential struggles or potential things your page could have on it to make it harder for the user to navigate. So ensuring that navigation is easy for everyone and your site is accessible for anyone. So user experience, core thing, not just from an SEO point of view, but from a general conversion rate optimization point of view, and also how your audience enjoys your website and your website's content is key. So if you haven't incorporated user experience audit into your strategy for next year to help improve your SEO, definitely something you need to be doing. And while we're talking about website content, I am going to talk about something that isn't necessarily a direct ranking factor in Google's algorithm, but it represents the qualities of high ranking content and pages, and that is EAT. EEAT. And that stands for expertise, experience, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. And these are all elements you need to incorporate into your website content to help signal to Google that your website is trusted and your content should be served to the user. So I'm quickly going to run through each of those points and talk about how you can optimize your website to EAT and signal to Google the trustworthiness of it. So the first one I'm going to talk about is experience. Or should I talk about expertise first? I always switch around the two E's. We'll talk about experience first. So experience is all about proving that you or whoever is writing on the website has experience in the field that you are writing about. Essentially, proving you have experience is about showing proof through tried and tested solutions, case studies, incorporating reviews on the website, and ensuring your content is unique. We already know the importance of having unique website content, especially since Google brought out its rules about duplicate content all those years ago and actually started penalizing sites without duplicate content. Having unique and relevant content on your site is a great way to show your experience to Google and other search engines. The next one is expertise. So a great way to do this and prove to Google that you are an expert, or whoever is writing the content on your website is an expert in that area, is by having an author at the end of your blog posts, for instance. And with that, have a well-written author bio on your website that users can easily go and read. Within that bio, just make sure to include anything relevant to qualifications, credentials, previous experience of the author, just to further signal to Google that whoever is writing this content, they are an expert within that area. There are also certain industries, they're called your money, your life industries. So anything where it can impact a user's life financially, or anything where you would really need that proof that the person writing it is an expert in that area. So whether that's to do with money related websites, whether that's to do with the health industry or health related websites, you really need to prove the expertise in that area of whoever is writing that content. So that's going to be key, especially for those types of sites. Next one I'm going to talk about is authoritativeness. So this is about proving your authority in the space that you're writing about. A great way to do this is through personal branding. Now, I know we've been talking a lot about personal branding for the past year, and it's kind of become like a buzzword, but that's because it's very, very effective when it comes to marketing a business, not just from an SEO perspective, but more widely when it comes to building a community, when it comes to building trust. A personal brand is a really great way to do that. And it can also have a positive impact on SEO, especially when you link to social medias relevant to your personal branding, when you backlink from other websites that are relevant to your personal branding, because it just really pushes your authority in that space. It's kind of like a thought leader. Another way, which is kind of an obvious way to build authority of a website, is through backlinking and a good backlink strategy. Obviously, it goes without saying, when it comes to a backlink strategy, less is more. It's better to drive less backlinks, and those backlinks come from quality sites, than to drive loads of backlinks and they're all from crappy websites that have a low trust in Google's eyes. And finally, trustworthiness. So this is all about proving to Google that your business can be trustworthy and users are going to be okay buying from your business. So they're not going to be scammed or anything. So this can be through ensuring your website is secure, which if you're running a brand, your website should always be secure. What I mean by that is things like having HTTPS in the URL, ensuring the checkout is secure, and just ensuring that there are no outbound links, so links to where people can leave your site that go to spam websites or anything like that. Ensuring that you have good security on your website so that it hasn't been hacked or anything, about securing the safety of your website. Another way you can gain trustworthiness through Google is through populating reviews. So if you have any way you can incorporate those reviews onto your website to directly signal to Google that people have used your service and or product before and they had a positive experience, that will be another way you can build on trustworthiness of a site. Now, content. The length of content, what is the ideal length of content? Is long form still a thing? Yes, it is, but let's talk about it because there are some nuances to it. So the previous issue with or challenge that SEOs faced and website owners faced when it came to optimizing their content is they wanted to avoid having thin content. So those of you who don't know what thin content is content on a site that has less than 300 words. The reason why thin content became such a problem is because when users were, or website owners were trying to rank for keywords and therefore keyword stuffing in pages and whatnot, they would just write a bunch of crap content that was say only 100 words long and just stuff their keywords into it. And because they were populating these blog posts that were so short out every week, it just filled the internet with spammy content, and it inadvertently eventually negatively impacted their rankings. So the new rule was avoiding thin content. So people were trying to create blog posts between 700 to 1,000 plus words long. But what that actually has meant is that there's still a lot of crap online because people are just creating content, writing about a specific topic that realistically doesn't need 1,000 words, but because they're trying to reach the word count, they're just filling their blog content with a bunch of crap, basically. And users online now, we have changed the way we browse and the way we research, where we're kind of looking to get to the point, which is why things like AI overviews came out, because it allows users to just get to the point, find out what they need and go. So whilst long form content is still definitely a thing, and you definitely don't want to be producing a bunch of crappy content, short blog posts online with the view to just tick that box, less is definitely more. And what I mean by that is it's better to write less blog content and it be of quality than to write loads. Also, on the flip side of that, if what you want to say can be said in a few hundred words, rather than writing a 1,000 word essay, it's better to say what you need to say succinctly than write a giant blog post about it. Google now more than ever wants us to really think about what the user needs and what the user wants from their query, and for us to cater to that. So if it's something where the user will be not looking to read a whole entire essay to get the answer to their question, You don't need to write a whole entire essay. Just answer their question. That's it. Simple as. Don't worry so much about hitting word counts for the sake of hitting word counts. Focus on really catering your website to the user's problem, and you will get more from your SEO strategy and your time than you would spending hours and hours writing a whole entire irrelevant story to get to the point. That's where SEO has kind of changed up this year. Obviously, still incorporate a few long form pieces of content within your strategy. Really make sure you're catering your content to the user's query where you can. And if that means having a shorter blog post that's, say, only 300 words, that's fine. It really won't be the end of the world. It will actually be better from the user's perspective to cater to their query more than just catering to hitting a word count. The next thing I'm going to talk about is your off-page SEO strategy. Now, this is going to sound similarly to my SEO podcast I recorded either at the start of this year or towards the latter end of 2023. But off-page SEO is continuing to be a very, very prevalent in the on-site SEO or on-page SEO. So those of you who do not know what off-page SEO is, it's anything that can help aid your search engine optimization off your website. So things relevant to Google business profiles, social media, stuff like that, backlinks as well. And backlinks still continue to be an important story to play in SEO and a very important ranking factor. But I'm actually going to be talking about social media and going back to that piece about personal branding and brand building. So Google loves brands. The reason why Google loves brands is because if you are able to build an authoritative brand in your space and a very well-known brand, Google looks at you as more trustworthy than brands that have no brand awareness whatsoever. So anything you can do to further build your community and build that brand awareness is going to be key in this area here, and it's going to be key in aiding your SEO. So things to do with posting content on socials, like I say, having that personal branding aspect, collaborating with other users in your space, collaborating with creators to further improve that influence between the user and your brand. Anything around brand building is key and will really help amplify your SEO strategy and your off-page SEO strategy. And then what you'll find is the more you build on these areas around brand awareness and brand visibility, a lot of other things will kind of fall into place. So things like organically building your backlink strategy. Backlinks will start increasing towards your website as you build on that brand awareness. Finally, I would say last but not least, but there are definitely more things to consider in your 2025 strategy for SEO or your strategy going forward for SEO. But this is going to be my final one on the list for this podcast episode. And that is, and it kind of goes hand in hand with user experience actually. If you actually look at a lot of this, a lot of it does loop in with that user experience piece. So if you're kind of ticking one box, you start finding that you start ticking the other boxes as well. But that is your overall website structure and ensuring your website has a clean, clear structure of importance of the content, if that makes sense. So navigation needs to be seamless and easy, and it needs to be clear to Google and other search engines what pages are your most important and what pages you need to rank. One way to look at that is through what's called your link depth. So link depth is essentially how many clicks it takes to get to a certain page from the homepage specifically. The more clicks it takes to get to a certain page on your website, the deeper the link depth is. Pages with a very high link depth, so there's a lot of clicks that are needed to get to that page, they typically generate lower rankings because they don't get crawled as often because they're not at the forefront of your site. So really consider what the link depth is of certain pages of your website that you want to rank and how you want to improve that. Another way to improve the navigation of your website is through things like breadcrumbs on your website. So those of you who don't know what breadcrumbs are, they basically leave a trail of where the user clicked so that the user can easily go back if they need to a certain page or a certain section of the website. You see this a lot when it comes to e-com websites, for instance, that have a lot of products. If you don't have a lot of products, it's not necessary at this time. It might be something as you build on your product offering. So an example would be, let's say I went from the homepage to t-shirts to a certain t-shirt on the homepage, say a pink crop top. My breadcrumb navigation would read as home, t-shirts, pink crop top. And if I wanted to navigate back to the t-shirt section or the home section, I can easily do that by clicking on that breadcrumb navigation. That's another way to improve the navigation of the website. And also, in terms of like structure, just ensuring content is structured well with clear headings and subheadings, and really show the importance to search engines of what page needs to rank where. But yes, I hope that episode was helpful. As I mentioned at the beginning, keywords aren't dead despite what the clickbait title may imply. They still are relevant in SEO, and you still should incorporate them within your strategy. But there are things that could be potentially more influential for you and your website this year and next year. So I hope this episode was very, very helpful to you. I hope it gave you some ideas of what to incorporate within your strategy. And just remember, like with anything from a digital marketing point of view, it's all about testing. You won't know until you try. So do not be afraid to test. Do not be afraid to make mistakes. As long as you learn from those mistakes and you take note of what you learn, it's never a fail, in my opinion. So yes, I hope this episode was helpful, and thank you for listening.